if you take away the fear, there's also no evidence of God. It makes no sense without God. God is the reason for it. If God would have just made the tree and said, you know, go forth and live, you know, we would have just figured out what was good and bad for us. Were the apples on the tree inherently bad for some reason? Yeah. Don't eat the apples on the tree. Easy. I'm running at the beginning of a hill. I just started a 3-hour run, and it's going to be a wonderful one. I'm very excited, full of energy. The weather's perfect. It's been raining a lot, and now it's like gray and cool, fresh, no sun, and everything's just damp and perfect. I'm in shorts and short sleeves. It's very good. Oh. Anyway, is the dog barking? Are the dogs barking? Is the dog barking? While you're running or walking by in an otherwise quiet place, is the dogs barking right in your face, bad, good, or indifferent? Which is it? Let me know if I need to clarify anything. I love coming, like, yeah, I can't even take credit, you know, it's just these little things come in to play in reality, and they trigger a human brain to interact with it. And it's a long history of this slowly getting more complex. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's getting more complex. The answer isn't good, bad, or indifferent. The answer is much more complicated than that. It's a long history of so many things. Sound being one of them. Vibration being another. Amplitude. Tone. You know, context. Past experience. What is currently being done by you in the present? Like the look and feel, the taste, the smell. You know, name your human thing that is happening here on Earth, and I'll tell you basically how it's happening to humans. And it's happening in reality. We have ways of deciding which, or choosing which, is more in line with how we understand reality to be. For most people, what I'm doing right now is virtually not in reality, but we can prove that it is. And, you know, let this be a claim that it does, because here I am. Now, is that proof that this is occurring? I could definitely argue that it isn't proof, but you would have to define what you mean by, or what context you're even saying it. What do you mean by, am I here? You know, these are the agreed upon things that we didn't know, we didn't understand, we didn't have a way to, you know, think about with one person. No words would matter. You wouldn't need to talk. You don't need to talk with one person. There wouldn't be this voice inside your head, because there would be no vibrations coming out as voices. in your head or in the whole world. I mean, that's just a crazy concept. I mean, the fact that it is, you know, there's one, and then there's two, there's a multiplication, and just like with a single cell organism, there's communication in the sense of interaction, and that gets more complicated as well. It can come out in this audio recording right now that is very weird. It's happening in my present, but it's something that is coming from the past. You know, it's stuff I'm thinking and then saying, and then it might be heard by someone in the future at some point. It's an extremely complicated scenario. Oh, baby. Oh, I'm almost to my warm-up spot. What's triggering this morning, you ever need some added inspiration? You know, have a random, after a long time, kind of spur in the moment discussion about Christianity and reality. I mean, the thing as well about reality is it includes Christianity. Now, can you say, I mean, they do say that Christianity includes reality, right? It's like, okay, but we don't all agree about Christianity, but we do all agree on reality. So that should say a lot. I mean, why was Adam or Eve even tempted to take the apple? Like, why? Was it something about it that they liked? Was it in their nature to do something that is inherently wrong, or not even inherently wrong, just told to be wrong? But I mean, why do we even like apples? You know, where did that come from? How did it come from God in this scenario? And God must have also made them originally choose to eat the apple, because what would their reason even be? We like apples so much. We're such reasonable people. When we see an apple tree, we eat it, whether God tells us to or not. We don't know anything else in the history of the world, because there is none. But in this circumstance, let me tell you, God says not to eat an apple, we're eating it. It's like, was that it? Despite God? Or was it like ingrained in them that that's how they are? And it sends you on this world of, you know, basically created by this God that is treating its people like slaves. I mean, that is just the fact. And that is only according to us. To him, to this God, there's no such thing as slaves in God's world. God is God. It can do anything it wants. And so it's created this world where it says, you know, I did this for you, and I did it in this way, and here's this book supposedly, and sorry for all the contradictions and problems in it that people say that it has. I should have wrote it a little more perfect. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But you guys are going to have to believe in me or go to hell. You know, like, I know how much you love this life, although it's insignificant and it's sad compared to where you will be going, but you should love me and worship me so you can go to this other place and worship me forever. It is so illogical that I really have a hard time not causing a lot of names for it. You know, like stupid and ignorant and dumb and retarded and everything else. Because it just is so clearly man-made. I mean, there's no question about this. It is literally written by people, made up by people, from people, We just simply know that this is what people do. And we can trace it back to why and how. Fear. It goes back to the beginning of this. It is and will always be fear. You take the fear out, what are you left with, my friends? People, if you don't have fear, you'll do anything. Why do you think that is true? Before this God, apparently there was fear, and we did? We multiplied wonderfully. Like, look at where we are as humans, and look at where we've come from. We have consistently worked over a long period of time. Anyway, this is man-made. It doesn't even matter. It's for 2,000 years. It's been a thing that has happened, and it's part of all the other historical myths and legends and stories that have happened, and it's part of culture. It is part of Western culture. It's not part of Hindu. I mean, it is Hindu culture and all these others in a different way. It's everywhere. And that's it. I'm going to keep running. I'm at my stretch point, about 10 minutes in, and feeling great. I don't normally do this recording while running. It's not my favorite thing to do compared to just running. So I'm going to try and not do it so much. It's mainly so I can take some notes, but I just, again, it's just words and ideas, and here we go, corresponding with reality, and it kind of just makes my brain connect the dots where it's like sense makes, the dots connect at sense, and they don't connect at lies and untruths, because that can't connect the dots. That can, but it takes you in an alternate direction that is not really in the reality, because if you said what the lie or untruth was, and then you would technically have to go back to that moment and make a decision there whether or not you wanted to believe that and go, you know what, let me relive my life based on the truth. And of course, you can't do that in reality. You just can't go back. You have to go forward. And so it's just not an option. All right, I'm going to get going. So again, out running, and it's been raining a lot lately. And in this moment, it isn't. Now, do I thank God for that? Or is it just chance that that's happening right at this moment? Is there a 20% chance of rain today? Is there a 30%? So, good and bad things can come from chance. It's not just good. It's like, our poop smelling bad. Is that necessary, God? I mean, is it? Can't you make it just like deliciously? What if we could just eat it again? That is horrible in our mind. Who in the Christian view created it? God did. There's no chance. It is all the determination of this God. And so you can this is why it keeps going so easily and so hard for Christians, is because they're literally having to justify things that don't correspond to anything of how it works in the real world. And when it comes to the real world and justifying itself, it does make sense in the world, because it makes sense to everybody in the world, because it corresponds to the world. There's nothing about it that doesn't correspond to the world, because it's using everything that is in the world and things that we don't know. We just literally say we don't know. We've not known so many things, and now we do know a lot more. I mean, when we were making gods in our heads, we didn't know anything. This wasn't 2,000 years ago. This was 100,000 years ago, when there was a rustle in the bushes, and it was like, what is that? Is it going to, am I going to die? Am I going to not? Maybe the first person did die. They went over there and like, what is that? And then all of a sudden it's a tiger. So then it evolved, and it starts going, all right, well, how do we know whether it's rustling in the leaves or a tiger? Because we don't actually know. In this moment, we are guessing. And we're guessing for good reason. But it turns out that sometimes the wrestling in the tiger in the bushes is unknown, and it's like this unknown. What is this? What is this? And it revolves into not knowing fear. Is it a tiger? Is it a leaves? I don't know. I'm scared. Is it unknown? People seem to be dying or not animate anymore, and what is happening? Where are they going? What is going on? You slowly evolve stories over time, and you start to realize, at first it's probably more like animals. Animals, it's there and they recognize it, but they don't dwell on it as much as we do because, we use words and we create all these circumstances where it matters over time. This is what humans do. We create stories that matter to us. Oh, baby, I get animated, especially when I'm out. Yeah. All right, I guess I'm going to just talk about things as they come to my head. I don't know how I'm doing it, so I'm going along with the flow of it. Now I'm running again, and I quite felt like going longer and a little slower today, so this is probably going to help me do that, which is also quite good. I was just thinking about how to, if I call this whole talk, reasons that we don't need a God anymore, and kind of go through, just like I was just talking about reality and all the reasons in reality that we humans know about that simply lead one to any adjective you want to put in here, basically, that means that it is true. Whatever you want to call that, it doesn't really matter, but it is true, and there's no debating it, basically. Like, for example, which is it? Is the dog barking at you while you're walking by it, like I said earlier, good, bad, or indifferent? This is an example of something we know for a fact that is not just one of them. Period. We know that. Now, if you want to go further into it, it just keeps going down the path of subjectivity, and you could say other things about whether or not any of these or all of these are correct. This is the whole point. The fact is it could be any of those ways, and it could be many, many more. Oh, man. So anyway, going down that path, pun intended, as I'm running on a path, and just see if I can touch on all the different little topics I can think of that, are examples in the real world right now. I'm trying to always think about the most simple and clear and relatable way to put it. It seems that if a comedian can come up with all these ways of relating funny to reality, then why can't I relate reality or humans to reality? Humans to reality? Of course, there's so... it's an infinite possibility of combinations. Guess what happens in that? Anything. Guess what's happening right now? I'm running down a trail talking about, talking as a human, reasoning about life. That's the facts. And I'm running down a nice trail, going downhill right now. God, this trail is so good. It's hard to explain how great it is. Now, that's debatable, which in my mind, it is debatable. It's obvious that it's debatable, but it doesn't mean that this trail isn't unbelievable, and I'm experiencing it right now. I guess we can do that. It's unbelievable, yet we're doing it. that's a little play on words, as we know that happens also. Anyway, choosing the different topics. Morality is just one I was thinking about right before I started this and rambling. And as well, like I had thought about doing this already before while running. It's an interesting idea. If I could get video, it'd be awesome. That just seems so hard, so difficult and laborious. And I mean, I guess I would get good at it. I could run with a gimbal or something, but jeez. What is a G's? Who knows what a G's is? Well, don't you dare say Jesus, because that would be something called taking the Lord's name in vain, which that would be considered immoral in Christian view, where in reality it has no matter. It means, it virtually doesn't mean anything. It is only only agreed upon by certain people to mean something that they believe. So it's very specific. So, in the real world, nothing actually happens in that other than this instance of people saying that this is what they believe and this is what will happen to you if you say this or something, But you can obviously say it and nothing happens at all and nothing ever will happen. That's because it's a word and words that are completely arbitrary and subjective. I mean, words are crazy. I'm always impressed by how the languages in general and how we came to even say what we say. I'm sure there's plenty of people that just think that English is maybe even the only language, but probably the best, or, like the culmination. Well, we're the most spoken language in the world or something. Oh yeah, we're the best. Right. I mean, that is such a misconception of how humans can think. It's not often we do, but again, I can't build a rocket, but there is humans that can, and so are there other forms and ways and experiences of thinking? It seems highly, highly likely, to the point we can prove it, basically. We know that there's, an imagination that can basically come up with, anything that you can think about or imagine that could be thought about. And of course, that's where we get into the differentiation of, what is the correspondence to the actual physical world that we're living, even mental world, as it corresponds to people. Again, it doesn't mean anything to say the Lord's name in vain if there is no God. And it surely doesn't mean anything to us because there's no reason for it to even exist at that point. Just like fear. Fear is a byproduct of needing to choose one thing over the other in any certain circumstance in your environment. Make no doubt, we come out of our environment, which is Earth. There are trees all over the world. There are people all over the world. There are ants all over the world. Different types because they grow in different ways. But the main species is there. And I think I read something like 99% of all species that have ever lived are now extinct. And we haven't been around for too long, which is good. I mean, I could easily see us living, I'm going up a hill. I've started one of my long mountain climbs. What we call them a mont would be probably considered a hill. Nice hill though. Alright, I'm gonna pause it. I can just keep talking and talking with my chain of thought isn't broken. Sometimes even if it is, you can go back, but you know, you're linking things together. They're becoming more complex, like evolution, like chance. Would you have a 1 in 1 in chance? 1 in 292 million chance? Which one would you rather have? I would rather have a 1 in 292 million chance in life, because right now we have 1 in 400 trillion chance. Obviously, a 1 in 1, that's not very believable. I was thinking when I said 1 in 1 that it was kind of going along with there's no option, you know, which of course that is true in reality. You can't choose to be born anywhere. So at what point do you start having choices? I would say technically never, but on the level you can, it seems like you're making a choice, and you virtually are, but you're not really. Am I choosing to run this trail? The culmination of Brandon is, and Brandon is the name of his body, including his brain. But that is a long, long chain in our world, and so many things have changed that I don't really know why I do it or how I like it, how or why it makes me feel a certain way, why I even have the, you know, anything about it. You know, why do I do it at all? It just makes no sense. Now today, specifically, whether or not to go run, I can even argue that I didn't make that choice really either. Ooh, I gotta slow down. Going uphill and talking changes the game. So there's such a long chain that there's no way you can know all the moves. And in the moment, you're always a culmination of all those moves. So, like today, it seemed that I chose to go run. I was looking at kind of how the weather is, but I don't control the weather. And for myself, I don't know whether it'll be yes or no until it hits me, until the culmination, the chains come together and you say poof, there, you know, here's the answer. Because that's how it works. You learn other things, you can pull more chains in together, they can make connections as well, and you don't really know what's going to cause them to change, how they're going to change, all these things, and you also don't know what they might create when they come out. You can make some guesses, and we do, and we know a lot about cells and reproduction and whatnot, but in general, you don't really know how it's doing it deep down into the connection. You know how it's moving and whatnot, but you don't know exactly what is taking place and how it's forming the way that it does. It's all about building blocks and the way things connect, and you can't really predict exactly how something with virtually infinite number of ways will connect, especially when it's connected to so many other kind of ways. And of course, when Christians hear stuff like this, they go, oh, that sounds a lot like God. It's like, no, that sounds like a very complicated group of individuals. You know, you have you and your wife, and then you get together with you, your wife, and their family, and your family, and your ex and their ex, and you get together with the kids, and you see how complicated it gets. Oh, I gotta keep going. Scusi. Alright, let's see what comes out next. Alright, I just started again. I've been running like 30 seconds. Running, silence just turns it on. I love it. I usually come out here and do this run either listening to music, which is amazing, nice melodic movement, or go out in silence and just get into my imagination, my thoughts, see how the puzzle continues. You know, you're virtually doing a puzzle and seeing what connects. Does this piece connect? I don't know. Let me try it out. My hypothesis was yes. Turns out no. Back to the puzzle pile. Whew. So when I think about doing what I'm doing right now, talking, it often seems like a good idea, but when I'm doing it, it's very different. It's cumbersome in a way. Not cumbersome, that's the wrong word. It's more like it takes a lot of extra effort. That's for sure. Here we go. I guess that's why, I can so easily as well side with, not side with, like just come to the conclusion that reality is all that we're experiencing. The good, the bad, the ugly. Clint Eastwood and oh yes, almost oh yeah, sweating good, even in this cold. I mean, it's like probably 15 C today because of the rain. So it's I wouldn't say tropical. A few weeks ago I could say tropical. Now I can't. Now it's a balmy coolness. See, right now I'm trying to go back to that train of thought exactly. Might be a little difficult, And of course, these things happen, and when you're running and you're recording and you're wet, so you're sweaty, touching the screen more. I even took the screen lock off so I can just press the button and talk. And the phone is waterproof, but touching the screen when it gets wet, just dealing with the phone too much. You say in a way it takes away from the run, like how does this correspond to reality? Does it? Because the answer I would say right off the bat is yes, and I could totally argue that the answer is yes, but at the same time, it has its own weird way of being. So, do you run talking to yourself while chasing after deer, trying to hunt one? I would probably say no. But in this world, right now, in this day and age, how about that? Doing this right now is not only fairly normal, it's highly consumed, actually. I mean, I've listened and watched a lot of things, and from what I hear, it's pretty true everywhere. And to me, it makes a lot of sense. Anyway, so just going out, throwing it out there, it's like start a specific channel where I can upload these type of things, because I find it interesting, and I like to get in on the conversation more with different types of people. This is what I find very, very fascinating, and see how quick the connections can come off in different situations. I need to get more experience. I need to have some talks over video online. I'll hopefully get Shane to do that first. Again, I think if you could say a specific goal, like Christianity says, we're trying to get people to not go to hell and go to heaven, be with God. Okay? And mine would be just what I've been saying, But on a shorter level, not a shorter level, but a shorter way to put it, it's I don't know exactly how, but it's basically about how humans can or do, believe things that are not true. And it's not that I don't know for a fact that is the fact. It's that on some things it's so obvious and some things it isn't, and some things you learn and some things you don't, and some things are taught you for so long that you may never give it up as a belief. It depends on the state of society, how many people are involved. So many things. So it's quite complicated. And in my head, because it seems so, I would say, pretty obvious to be very easy on it because of, like I said, all the examples of humans and reality corresponding together. That's it. And all the we got a lot, and we agree on virtually all of them except which one's better, vanilla or chocolate. So that's one of the final frontiers of the human psyche. Maybe we'll get to that one day, maybe not. I hope this can be heard. I think probably the first person I'll send it to maybe is Levita. She kind of sparked it. I like this in a sense that it's free and clear. It's like, I obviously don't have an agenda. That's clear. And, you're getting the truth in as much clarity as I can probably say it. At the moment, anyway. Not about running, just, it seems I'll have more perspective, or a different perspective, one filled with more connections over time when I'm, older. So you would think it would keep evolving with life. That's what it does anyway, no matter what you believe. The only things that are limited are really your beliefs, in a way. That's not exactly true. I'm sure there's many more, but if you believe in something that says it is the ultimate and can't be changed, then in one way that actually doesn't really matter too much, is, in my opinion, is that that's it. It's over. There's no, in that sense, there's nothing to do, really. Of course, then reality sets in and you got to pay your bills. Your air conditioner went out and all this and a bag of tricks. I guess this is but I don't say that in the same way as a Christian would, but this is a strange way to look at it, but it seems to be the truth also. Although I truly don't hope that this is real, but there are a lot of conversion stories to Christianity that are about being in the worst possible, human condition for whatever specific culture and town and village or family you're in. It's like, I'm lonely, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm into drugs, I'm on alcohol, I'm doing anything and everything to, it doesn't even have to be so crazy. It's like, I'm not having luck with women, And, you know, am I sleeping too much with them before I get married? And, you know, they can come like that. Like, oh, I didn't realize that. And then you actually, you know, don't have sex with a woman so quickly. And guess what? You might have something in common. You might not. And if you do, guess where you're going to put all your faith? Probably in God. Because guess what? God gave you your wife. It's like, that's how things happen. I'm on drugs. Somebody save me. Jesus can save you. You know? I don't mean to say this all in a derogatory way. I hope I don't sound like that. Whew. I mean, you can't really get it there in any sort of way that seems like it's a light, you know. And now, and in the culture, I mean, it used to be that the actual church was the light, you know, but we got way away from that after all the scandalous stuff now. And now the light is on a personal level, you know. And people say, oh, it's always been on a personal level. I'm talking about the faith arises out of the disciples, then the church, and it's told to the king, and the king tells the people, and the priests talk to all the villages. This is the way that it is, the way that it was, and is, even still. I mean, the crowds to listen to the Pope are unbelievable. Why? I mean, it's fine and it's a grandiose scenario, but let me tell you, that's not necessary. The Pope in general isn't necessary. I mean, do you really need some sort of figure? I mean, why? I mean, again, it's just so crazy. Woo. Trying to switch hands and drop the water bottle. I've been holding it in my right hand the whole time. I'm cruising right along. Legs are feeling amazing. Yeah, all is great. The trail is nice and soft. Hopefully the wind isn't too bad on this. And if it is, you know, it was good practice. You know, now, is that good, bad, or indifferent? Is you know, if it's good, is it good? Even something good could turn out to be bad. We know that's true too. So many funny things. I had a Christian the other day tell me, you know, it's like even saying, you know, God or fuck. They use this example of if my 6-year-old was walking around saying fuck, would that be bad? You know, I was like, I mean, in my head I'm thinking, God, it's so silly, you know, because it's so obvious that humans tend to think that people should probably have a little bit more experience in their life before they start using creative liberties such as that. I mean, this is the basics of being a human. And I mean, this guy, a friend of mine, who I do like nonetheless, and I mean, I was thinking about this the other day because no one's perfect. What does it even matter at all? It doesn't, you know. If nobody's perfect, then they can believe anything, and anything can be right or wrong in any circumstance. And, you know, if it's something like this that to me doesn't matter, then why would I let that get in between me liking him? That makes no sense. I mean, I either don't like him because of who he is, or I like him. I mean, why would I there's no like, oh man, if he only did this, I would like him. It's just stupid. I mean, you could think like that with somebody you didn't know, and you say, oh, if they had these qualities, I would like them. You know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think that's how people should get together more often, talk about who they are, and decide like, maybe I like you, maybe I don't. Let's keep talking, get to know each other a little bit more. Oh, what a novel idea. Or should we, get together for just emotional reasons, whether it be through alcohol or through church, or church and alcohol can both be social, and so they can also be detrimental. I mean, again, it should be based on reason and thinking and asking questions and talking. Can we get, or beyond a reasonable doubt, and can you get there? Beyond a reasonable doubt, the beyond a reasonable doubt game, and can you get there? Can you make it there? I was just thinking about how we all agree upon this. So let's play the game. Can you get to beyond a reasonable doubt? With different topics, how morals began, what are morals? What is the best flavor of ice cream? I guess we did create a game like this. It's called Statistics and Evidence. I didn't mean to make this a parody on it, but that is all true. Like, we have a lot of ways, and I guess the whole reason I thought of the game is, can you use what we know and how we are and all the tools and things that we have about reality? Can you get to a reasonable doubt? You'd have to do the same if you were a prosecuting attorney and you were defending someone, whether it be a person or a business. Of course, businesses are made up of people, so are religions. So let's play a game. What do we want to talk about? And can we both agree beyond a reasonable doubt? Maybe that would take the edge off a little bit. It's like, it's not I'm right or wrong. It's we both have a goal, and let's see if we can conclude the same thing. There's that we do have a word for that too, but I won't say it. It's a dirty word. Starts with an S, ends with an E. I am about halfway, pretty much. No, wait a minute. Something. An hour and 10 minutes in. How about that? I mean, time is one. I think about time and use time quite a lot, Yesterday, for example, I was on a timeline that included Elsa and multiple other variables, and I was trying to time it to a certain spot while covering a variable distance. And so I was quite often looking at my clock to see where I was in time and space, according to something we all agree on. We didn't have to, but it made a lot of sense to have a unifying timeline overall. So using time, it's unified. That's a very good one to use. You know, and of course I've already covered, you know, the way that people do things and the different types of things that we do. You know, and you can use all these. The thing that, of course, it always comes back to with the Christian debate is they will have to get so convolutedly complicated that it's irrelevant, or they'll have to go specifically to faith, and that's it. We don't, like, in reality, we don't have to do that. We don't have to go on faith. We just go on, I don't know. And that corresponds to reality a lot because we don't know a lot. But as far as faith is totally subjective. I mean, in knowing something is too, but I talk about humanity. And humanity, the only thing that humanity has in common as far as faith goes is, I mean, like the major thing is that you will most certainly die. And there's other things. You most certainly would have been born. You not most certainly will be born, because that is a very, very low probability. But the fact that you're here shows that it's true, regardless of the probability. But we have direct evidence, and we have a lot of it. And it's undeniable, beyond a reasonable doubt, fact that even though there's a 1 in 400 trillion chance that the person is here, that person is in fact here. That is not something that you can say about things that have only a 50% chance. It has to be virtually a 1 in 1, which in a way 400 trillion to 1 is a 1 in 1, because it was going to happen. Like, think if you had a 400 in 1 chance, 400 trillion in 1 chance, then your chances of landing on one of those 400 trillion is very, very good. It is virtually like it was going to happen for sure. Oh, I just was so into it. I passed my mid, and a water pump just came on. There's a nice natural water well halfway through my run, and right before I go up the hardest hill, well, not right before, I still got a nice downhill. But I come here, I fill up my water bottle, wash my face, and then get moving. I'm gonna pause it. I'm always thinking of these, like I said before, little connections, and I'm getting water, and I'm chugging some of the water right before I fill it completely up, and I get to a point that it sings in myself, in my belly, physically, and probably mentally, that like that's enough. Now, the thing that hit me was, is this good or is this bad? Like, just as a thought experiment. Is it in and of itself that I'm full and that is where I should stop? Or does something else make it that way? Like, which is it? Is it me saying I'm full? Or is it just literally the fact that the water has filled up a certain amount of finite space, and my brain sends me a signal that says, or it is the signal, my brain reads it as, that's enough. Stop. Don't overload it, because the brain is in charge, and it uses the stomach to collect water, and you drink, and you got to have some kind of system that stops you from, you don't have to have, actually. There is a system that, came up over time and the way that it changes and grows to make the most sense. What would happen You know, if you have a finite space and you put too much water in it, what happens? You puke it up. You know, like, it's a mechanism to work with what we have. You know, like that is so much what I'm talking about, these little connections and what corresponds to reality. Oh, baby. I'm running on a narrow, wet, rocky, tight trail. You know, these all, I say them, ooh, that's slippery, because they all relate to these kind of ideas that Christians and religious people talk about, you know, is killing good or bad, all right? And is killing good or bad because inherently of the way that it is, or because the Christian God says it is, you know? And again, it seems pretty clear that it's because it's inherently the way that it is. Now, you could say that God made it inherently that way, so that it, like, God made being dead bad, you know, like, and if you're dead, it's bad, and so don't dead anybody. I mean, you know, that works, you know. I mean, there's no difference between that and just saying that's just the way that it is, you know. It's like, we don't know, but this is what happens if this happens. And if this happens, and we don't like this, we're just dead. And so we ain't gonna do that. We're gonna fill up our bellies too much with water, although we do. And we're not gonna just kill somebody for no reason, but we do. So to say that God made us in its image is the exact opposite of what it is. We made God in the image of ourself and our imagination and our creativity. That's where the idea, or how the idea arose. And creativity isn't this magical thing, you know. Self-image, you know, isn't this magical thing. It all corresponds to what's happening and in reality, and how a human, an organism, can reacts to it. It's like if you drop a rock off of a high spot onto another rock and it breaks, that's a reaction from two things, even three, because there was a dropper, and even more because there's a ground, you know, there's gravity, so many things that come involved in reality when anything happens. Whoo! I started the long uphill. See, this would be cool on video, but recording video seems very difficult to make it good enough and record the audio, and the angle. I would have to have a stick and wireless mic. I mean, it's just too much work. Maybe one day. In fact, I mean, if I had a better camera with OIS and wireless headphones with a mic capability through the video and the waterproof phone, then I could do it. No problem. But that's not the reality that I live. I live in this reality that virtually pushes me into doing this. This is what's happening. Woo! Balls it, baby. Of course, when I start running, I'm like 2 minutes up the hill, and I just had this idea, another connection America, I haven't lost my train of thought. But because I've been talking, where I am right now in the run, it doesn't seem like I've ran as much as I have. Seems like I have only, in a way, it's like I popped in, because I've been concentrating on talking. And it's not that I'm concentrating on thinking, but if I was in, which I feel heavily, meditative zone, it's not the run you're thinking about. So specifically while talking, say, is it real that I haven't ran as far as I thought, or as far as it says I have on my watch, or am I missing something? It seems that it's true, but it isn't. And if I believe it all day long, and then I go home and say, God, I must not have ran as far as I was going to. I don't remember it. But here I am. So I only remember running for 30 minutes. Anyway, this is going off on a long tangent, and I'm still running up. The point is to say that it's just another tiny example of how we can be delusional quite easily. I mean, you could be talking to somebody and somebody comes say hi, and if you were in the right state of mind while talking to the first person, if you saw that second person in a week or two, and they're like, oh, good to see you again, you could easily say, what do you mean again? They're like, yeah, well, saw you last week, 2 weeks ago. You don't remember? God, I don't remember that at all. Oh yeah, it's funny. Well, you were talking to somebody, so that's pretty good. You were focused. Oh, I made it to the top. Oh baby. Anyway, that's the point. The point is not to discover ways humans are delusional, but that is a byproduct. You can so easily talk about how humans can be astutely attentive about the ways of the world. And kind of, we call them laws, but, it's really like the way things move, the way things react, the way things, move with others, react with others, change, evolve. We have words for all these things, like physics, like gravity. There's not an actual gravity thing. It's just the way the world moves in certain ways around other things. It's more like a reaction, like a direct, kind of complication between mass and, dark matter, dark energy, the stuff that is there, but you don't see it, but, and what we mean by dark energy, dark matter is, everything, kind of the space in between when you're looking at something. Yeah. Woo. I'm back on the road. I mean, that makes sense. It's not like nothing. Actually, there is a vacuum. That's another way we call it. The space between. There is something. There is not the absence of something isn't necessarily nothing. You know, it's well, maybe the absence of something is nothing. But saying nothing is something. You know, there's not nothing there. That you can't have a negative, a double negative. Like, there's not a negative of something. You know, it's just there is something there. We don't know exactly what it is. We call it dark because it's virtually not there, but it is. Because again, there can't be nothing. Well, in our universe, even the space between is something. And all this, like, even when you get spacey like this, I mean, I want to always correspond to reality. Like, you know, we know you can't see air, but it's there. You know, we know we can't see the space between here and the sun, but we also know it's there. I mean, but here between us and the sun, we really actually do have a lot to see because our atmosphere is in the something that is there. It's kind of a good way to put it. But when you go out past atmosphere of a mass, think of it like a stench coming off a human body. There's a few layers of, and even when it leaves the skin, it still radiates around them. That's the mass in the atmosphere. And once you get past that, there's nothing that refracts, however you want to say it, off of the stuff that is there. I think maybe that is why we call it dark, because nothing reflects off of it. It doesn't reflect, basically. When things don't reflect, we don't see them very well. There are ways, but our eyes are not very good. Man, I'm cruising. I'm really cruising. I'm about to get to one of the hardest uphills. It's got a good rolling gain, and then it gets to a part where it probably takes me a minute, I guess I would say, to go up it. And I go up it quite fast, and it's very steep. So it's still far, but it's very steep and very technical. Anyway, just describing reality around me. It's like, I could even say as a human, I can say stuff like, you know, I have faith and I believe that I will be able to make it to the top of that section today. And that's faith and belief. But it corresponds to reality. You know, it may not turn out to be true, but I have pretty good reason to think that what I believe is good to put my faith in this specific circumstance. First of all, I've done it many times, and I've only gotten stronger, so pretty unlikely it's not going to happen. So, on the other hand, it would be bad to put your belief and faith in winning the Powerball, although you can, and many people do, but it makes more sense to put your faith and belief in being reasonable and maybe, you know, saving money, investing slowly, maybe one day creating some reserves of energy. But yeah, believing and putting your faith. I'm on the gain part of that hill. Oh, this is, at least if I pass out, I'll be able to talk, maybe, at some point. Anyway, like, I'm very curious about, how we use these words, belief and faith. And, I mean, if a Christian was to tell me that saying whether something corresponds to reality or not is off, I think we need to have a little chat about why they might think that. Excuse me. Woo! Second part is coming. If I can talk while doing that, that'd be crazy. So, Christians do that with science. And science is basically what I'm saying. So they, indoctrinated in a specific religion with a word named like Christian Baptist. It's like they kind of conflate science with something like that when it isn't. God, I'm going up the steep part now. Let's see how this goes. Woo! I'm feeling pretty good. So that's something. I do need to run my arms. This is a very hard incline. All right. Whew. I guess I was right to put my faith and belief. And now, for now, that faith and belief is over. It's finished. I guess that's kind of a funny way to go into that there's no ending for the faith and belief of a person. Like when they believe in a religion, they can believe it to the day they die. That's the infallible part. That's that comes to it. Something you can't relate to reality because there's no other examples. That's why we give Jesus being the Son of a God, well, the God in this example would be one in however many people there have ever been on the earth, and it would be less than that even, because, well, I guess technically it would be that if it did happen. So it'd be like 1 in 100 billion. Now, going back to that we're here, and we said 1 in 400 trillion, you think, that's way more. And you believe that. Again, we have, at the moment, we have 8 billion examples of that happening. Because like I said, 1 in 400 trillion is a very likely, 400 trillion to 1 is a very likely number. And it's so likely that it's already happened about 100 billion times. But it's never happened where somebody was the Son of God. It's never actually happened in reality. What we do have is a collection of stories created by humans, for humans, to talk about human life, how we should interact with the world around us. All cultures all around have this, and they all stem from the beginning of this whole talk, which was the fear. That's it. And if you want to say something nice, you say, starts with curiosity. You can just as easily say that. You don't have to say fear. I tend to think that, maybe that's wrong. Maybe it's not fear. Maybe it is curiosity. It's like, you don't know what's in the bush. See, that's hard. It's like, because you could also say, what do you say? Like, something has to happen to occur to give you, it's probably unlikely you're sitting around and nothing is happening, and then the occurrence of the beginning of the unknown, and that's ultimately what the idea of God is. It's this idea of the ultimate unknown, the ultimate creator, the ultimate, it's not the ultimate creator, it's the ultimate, give us a reason why we're here. It's the ultimate, this is why, the ultimate answer to why. It has become, it's like the definition of God, is pretty synonymous, the ultimate idea of why. Why God? Because it's created to be in this realm of outside of the universe. It has this, kind of nature. We've given it this nature of being greater than anything that's inside this universe, which is the reality we live, and we come up with all these, arbitrary rules, like traffic, even traffic speeds aren't really arbitrary completely, because God is pretty arbitrary completely. It's like the basis of, I know nothing, now I know. It's like, and you can say, and God can virtually just be any answer to I don't know. And again, the definition of God is evolved into the ultimate answer to I don't know for humans. It evolved over time like that, through the ideas of religion and complex coming together and all this. And then we started questioning these ideas. Is lightning coming from Zeus, or is lightning coming from some other way? And people say, well, how do we just come up with this idea to think about lightning in a different way? Yeah, that happens over time, How does any idea occur? And we talked about this too. It's, I didn't just randomly have the idea of starting to sew. It kind of occurred to me slowly, and I had the added benefit of already knowing that sewing is a thing. Good grief. Whoo. This is crazy. Really crazy. Doing all this technical running while talking like this. There's no way. I think about that, how my running is always alone. And it's always, it's just my solo meditation. But when you're talking like this, you feel even more like, and I feel a lot that I'm with Elsa, and I do wish she could like be with me and see kind of what it is like, because it's kind of, unless you're doing it, you don't know what it actually feels like, but, and again, this is a good example of we don't know anything for certain, but we do have a lot of examples of people running. We know that people do it, and then it gets more rare, the kind of the quote unquote crazier, wild, difficult it goes. You can go outside and run for 2 miles on the street near your house, or you can do what I'm doing and traverse a lot of crazy landscape. And anyway, again, reasons that we don't need a God. I mean, why phrase it that way, Is it going straight for religious people? I mean, I think, Nietzsche wrote a lot about this, and, he says we killed God, and people use the quote from him, but the reality is he was not a Christian, and he thought Christians were beyond ridiculous, He didn't think we needed God. It was like, God, I'm going over a bunch of very muddy spot, and I'm just getting out of it. It was like, he said God is dead, And it is true. We have killed God more than we've ever had before. It's it's not to say people still aren't religious, but like I tell a friend, we agree on 99.9% of reality. It's just that you add God on top. It's like a cherry on top. For all intents and purposes, God does not exist. We killed God because reason is too strong. God lives in the 0.1% of our being, that thinks about this story from time to time and relates it to whether or not I'm gonna be saved or not. And for people who believe it, the answer is seemingly the best answer that they could give themselves, which is, yeah, I'm gonna be saved. So it makes a lot of sense because I'm gonna be saved. It's hard to go against I'm going to be saved, especially when in your mind as a Christian you're thinking, if I'm not saved, that means I'm not saved. And of course, for a person like me, you don't need to be saved. There's no need. There's no God trying to make you. And it goes back to did God create this tree specifically to make our life a living hell? Like, why do that? Why not make this beautiful tree, like we have? We have trees. Some are good for us, some are bad. You know what? We don't eat the bad ones. We eat the good ones. That's how we do our morals. We eat the good ones and we don't eat the bad ones. Or at least we try not to. Some people still, they go to that tree and they test it out. They test the stove. Is it hot? I bet you money that kids aren't touching stoves as much anymore. It's no longer a phrase that is really necessary. Now, unfortunately for us, and I would say that religion also goes with this, because it sure as hell isn't reason. It's like most murders are committed by basically morons. They think somebody dissed them or made fun of them or did something in a way to offend them or, something. And they get in a fight and they kill each other. It's not usually like a guy robbing a store to get diapers for his child and he ends up shooting the cashier. So it's like, if there was more reason in these people's lives, they probably wouldn't kill people. There wouldn't be nearly as many murders. Or if there was, that is a big one. But at the same time, you need food and shelter for people. If somebody's desperate, killing is not as bad as somebody who, quote unquote, has it all to lose. I really think about the land a lot. How, why is... And I was listening to an audiobook that was talking about property and how in old France and all across the world, still, the more property you have, the more influence you can have, basically. And it's just like, power goes to people's heads. And so what do people try to do? They try to get land so they can have more power and so they can control people. This isn't evil. This is just people taking advantage of situations. It's like, you find $100 on the ground in the middle of nowhere. Do you use the rest of your life to try to find the person that lost $100? No, you just keep the $100. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It isn't your money. That's true. It isn't your money. But, and you're technically, it's kind of a gray area. You are stealing it from somebody, like they don't have it, you do. And you could get it to them, possibly, but you're not going to try. Anyway, reason and why we do things. I could talk so much about this, about sex is such a big one. Communication, how we treat people, why we treat people in certain ways, in groups, out groups, people belonging, not belonging, treating people in certain ways because they believe certain things. Now, if you're treating someone in a certain way because, they've got a gun to your head or they're threatening you, that's one thing. But if you're just treating them in a way that is harmful just because something that they believe, and when I say harmful, I mean, kind of goes against the interests of them, you, what's good between you and them, etc., etc. If you're doing that for a belief, then quite frankly, something is off with that person because it doesn't go with what is flourishing in the world. I mean, that being said, you got to break an egg to make an omelet. So it is possible that doing that thing for their belief could lead to something, and that leads you into tactics and strategy, how to communicate, and beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, how do you get there? The beginning of this talk was, the beyond a reasonable doubt game. How do you make it there? Whoo! Starting a long downhill now. I've been running for 2 hours now. 5 till 2 hours. 1 hour 55. Feeling great. I think I've been talking quite a lot of it. Probably maybe about half. Now that I think about it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, I'm gonna pause it, see what happens. Oh yeah, 45 minutes though. I've been talking for about an hour and a half with an hour 55, so pretty long. I'm on my favorite downhill, and I just started the recording again while I'm about halfway down it. This downhill is amazing, and I just thought it would be interesting to actually talk about it while it's happening. Oh, I mean, I'm flying, and the ground is so nice and perfect softness. Oh, just a downhill cruise through nature. And like I said, I'm at 2:05 into it, so I'm very warmed up. It's a perfect time for this downhill. Oh, cruising. And now I hit the bottom. Now I'm starting a quite long uphill. Here we go. I didn't really start this to talk. I'm really enjoying the run. Continuing. And I kind of feel like it's probably enough for now. Although I'm still open because this run is for this, it seems, today. So here we go. The uphill. Whew. This is a great uphill too. Very nice. Very nice single track mountain bike trail is what a lot it's used for. Here's the famous slippery rock. All right, I'm gonna pause it. All right, so I am 2 hours and 10 minutes in, and I wanted to just get a little bit of video, kind of give a look at, this is, I'm about to hit a road that crosses me over to another mont that I've got another 30 minutes or so I'm gonna do. So about 2 hours and 40 minutes probably. And 3 or 4 more quite good hills. Feeling good, the shoes are killing it. My legs feel good. It's just perfect weather. What can I say about it? I'm sure my camera's dirty. All right, I'm gonna get going. This camera is on this phone is not great, so the video is not that good. So I'm gonna not try too much. All right. I'm starting now the last long hill. The longest last hill. Anyway, this is the hill that when I get here, I'm 2 hours 20 in, and I always start to doubt whether I can keep going, but I always do. Haven't stopped yet, and I've ran it many times, and always a similar feeling at the beginning. Not every time, but today it inspired me to start talking. This feeling that I can't do it. It's my brain kind of collapses on the thought, and my body is agreeing. And thing is if I go through it, I make it. My brain submits. Ooh. My body works. And when I get to the other side, well, feels great. Oh yeah. Oh. All right. Made it to the top. Now, a little undulation and then some more climbing. The 3 months that I run here are highly variable, and a lot of undulation, a lot of variation, technical, not a lot that's very untechnical. Like, anybody could run where I'm running right now, but to run for 3 hours, you gotta go through quite a good amount of variety. Whew. And today, you even gotta dodge big puddles. Oh. Good. By the time I get to my stopping point, which is on top of this mount here, which is 1, 2, 3, like 4 good hill burns away, and another 20 minutes or so, I'm gonna be breathing very hard. The last 5 minutes or so are quite steep and quite constant. Anyway, feeling great, really. Sun is even out, cutting through the trees, and yeah, once I finish, get to the top, I'll walk slowly back, stop and stretch. Haven't seen another person out here. It's totally, I never see anybody out here. In a year, I've seen a few. That's it. Haven't seen anybody in 10 runs probably, easily. So I basically just have all these woods to myself. That's what it feels like. It's not actually true. I know there's other people out here. It's just so big, I don't see everybody. I don't see people. Now, that being said, there is very few, but they are here. And mostly on the weekends. I mean, this is a Tuesday at 1:20 p.m. Most people are doing other things. Oh, yeah. All right. All right. gonna pause it. I just thought of something funny coming over this hill. What this is? A hill. I said Jesus Christ at the time. Oh, Jesus Christ. And of course, what I meant is a version of crazy. It's crazy, you know. So, to me, I was using the words Jesus Christ to describe and express in a moment of, you know, kind of wow, you know, at the kind of amazingness, the craziness, the adventureness of the moment that it's in, you know. And so, to me, it's not even like in the realm of describing a bad situation. It's a good situation. So why would that be blasphemy if it's good? Because you can say Jesus Christ in a good way and it not be blasphemy. So who decides what the way is? Yeah, just another way, another thing that doesn't correspond to reality. Oh baby, I'm about to hit the last hard uphill to home. I mean, not to home, to the top. We say here, fuego, means like fire, like whoa, crazy, Jesus Christ, you know. It's all context. Yes, you can say dude, and it mean many different things. You can say fuck, and it mean many different things. You can say Jesus Christ, and it mean many different things. You can say Brandon, and mean many other people in general. Here we go. Breathe. Breathe. Getting closer. When you get to the top, it feels like this. It feels like, you know, your body can't take it. The body, the mind, all this that is moving is gonna stop. All right, downhill here, and then the last uphill, which is quite a burn, quite a good one. Just before you reach the top, it's very steep. It's crazy, all these trails. I'm on a rolling connection down, very rocky dirt, very treacherous. You really gotta be on it. If you don't look for a second, you might go down. All right, here we go. About to start it. And we're going up. Last uphill. Let's see how hard I breathe. I still have to pace myself. For sure. I can't just run it full power. I definitely wouldn't make it. I made it about 10 seconds ago, and now I'm kind of just slight jog, walk down. Got to keep moving. When you're breathing that fast, you can't just stop. You can. It's not advised. Reasons of this world, biology. Oh, baby. Oh, yes. Muito bem. He already saying muito bem right then. Sound like I did it naturally. I didn't try to say muito bem, but I didn't grow up saying muito bem either. And it kind of means something different. It doesn't translate directly to very good. It's like, it depends on how you say it in the context. It really is. It's just like that. In a way, someone who doesn't know or hasn't lived in the language, when they hear it, they may only even hear the context or understand the context and the way they heard it, the tone and all that. And they can probably guess, in a way, what it, or at least the feeling of it. You don't really need to know the definition sometimes when you have enough context. I do that a lot. You can, living in a culture where I don't understand their language, and I have been for years, Nepal, Thailand, all over Asia and India and now Europe. And it's funny. You get a weird sensation of otherworldliness, like how could they be in the same environment that I am right now and say descriptions of it, not only with different words and tones, but like because they actually see it differently, and the way they describes it in a little bit different way. It's not the same. Like if two people describe the same scene in their native language and it's heard by their native people, they don't get the exact same picture. This is hard to imagine, It's just very hard to imagine. Even for me, it still feels like, I listen to it, I'm like, how can that be? And for English, it's quite funny because English comes from all these other languages. It evolved and changed over time. And all languages do evolve and change over time. But, English is quite funny in the way that it evolved and changed as well. There's no real difference there. It just is another story. Oh, so that is 2 hours and 40 minutes, I guess it was. And it's almost 2:45 now. And I'll walk back, and it'll take me about 25-30 minutes to walk back. So I normally get done with this run in about 2 hours and 20 minutes and then walk back. Same run. So it looks like this run did take me about maybe 20 minutes more. And I can't even really put my finger on how that happened, other than, obviously the recording, but I can't pinpoint exactly where, because I don't remember taking up 20 minutes of time. Now, it must have slowed me down, and I didn't realize it as well. And at the same time, it because I was distracted from the running, it made me think in my brain that it was actually less time than it was, even though it turns out it was actually more time than it was, even though it felt easier and faster and perhaps further than normal. The brain and interactions in the world can be very complicated and confusing. That's why, that's why we don't have to have, but that is why we come up with these ways of differentiating where we want to, we're differentiating what's real and what isn't when we want to. Sometimes we love to play make-believe. We love to make scary monsters and scary movies and scary feelings and scare ourselves and trick ourselves and magic, and it's like we love being surprise birthday parties, or surprise presents, surprises that are good for us, ones that we deem as good. And it's funny that Christmas just happened because, you receive a surprise present that is given in good faith, but hits you, and it's not something that you want, and you have to either be dishonest and say you like it, or be honest in good faith and say what you really mean. And how do people react to that? Do they react like they got their feelings hurt? Or do they react like, yeah, that happens in reality? Like if you surprise something, you're not sure what the reaction is going to be, Now, and we try to pinpoint that. We try to, scary movies, we try to scare people. Gifts, we try to get them to be corresponding to what the person might like. Oh, God. Running and talking, how much energy do you think this gives out? Must be a lot. I'm just thinking about it because I feel jacked. I feel like full power, energetic at the moment. I always do after runs. It does feel different in a way now. In the sense that it is different. So that does make sense. That corresponds to reality. There's no magic there. It's not like everything's the same and I'm feeling that something's different, and I believe that it's different, and I put my faith in there and I make decisions based on that faith, but it turns out that it wasn't different and there was nothing that caused anything to be different, and it was all in my head. It was all imaginary. I don't understand exactly I get it, the defending part, but like when something specific, and this is why all these examples come up, is when something specific that's very simple corresponds to reality in the way that we think, it's obvious to everybody who sees that, It's like no one denies that humans make up stories. No one does. Everybody agrees that people make up stories. We all agree that that's true about the world we live in. So in the most simple terms, what is more likely? That the one specific story with their one specific God is actually a God, is the creator of the universe? Or is it more likely that everybody creates stories about God, and everybody who does is equally just a story about God? That's it. It's like, if you want to get into anything, like get into the values of whatever the religion is. It's like, if like Buddhism, what do they say about how to be? Islam, what do they say about how to be? Christianity, what do they say about how to be? How to be in this life? What do scientists say about how to be? There's science on many, many things. It's like how to have better relationships, how to run better, what shoes to buy, how to build a plane, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. Remember, don't jump off of a building. You're going to die, And it's like Christianity, like what can it bring to us that helps us, in life? What is it about Buddhism? What is it about these religions? Like, you don't need to go that route. Like, I think as a human, you can just be in the world and experience people and come up with what's good and bad about what's happening. It's on a spectrum. What's good and bad is on a spectrum. Like, it relates to the context of what is happening to whatever it's happening to. It's very subjective about what is happening in the world. Like, there's objective things that just occur, like a rock hitting a rock and it breaking in half. You can say now there's two halves to the rock, like that's objective, but the subjective thing is like, what positions are okay to perform during sex, if you're trying to have sex with someone's ear, maybe that would be objectively, off. It seems like it is, for many reasons. I don't think many people even try to have sex with other people's ears, but I guess there is a hole there, and maybe somebody's penis is that little. But in general, it's like you can do, anything that you want to do, basically. And yet there's like these subjective things in Christianity that is like, no, you can't do this. It's like, why can't I do this? There's no reason there. There's no reason at all I can't do this unless I say that there's a reason. I mean, and it's so annoying when Christians right there will go, oh, you just want to do whatever you want to do. It's like, if it makes sense to do that, I don't want to just do whatever I want to do. Like, I would love to just jump off a building and be able to fly, but I'm not going to try that. It's so crazy. Like, I would love to be able to ride my bike down a mountain and, close my eyes the whole way. That would be amazing. That would be so amazing. But guess what? That would more than likely kill me. So I'm probably not going to do that. It's like, but something that is delicious and wonderful, that has no bad consequences at all, only is pleasurable and can be great for everybody that's involved. I mean, for someone to just say arbitrarily, don't do it, that's just stupid to me. And I'm sure that person would think the same thing if I told them to stop doing something that for them is good and for me I don't like. I mean, this is all just so beyond a reasonable doubt corresponding to reality. So I guess that wraps it up. I haven't checked and see if this sounds good at all. I don't know anything. This whole thing has been a experiment, and what a wild one to say the least. My legs are, I feel them a good amount. Not in a bad way, but just, they have been worked. I'm completely soaked from, my feet are dry, my shoes are pretty dry, but my shorts and my shirt and my hat are all completely soaked from sweat. It didn't rain one time. So I'm walking down the road and I'll be home in about 15 minutes, walking slowly. Man, what a burn. I mean, to me, this is beyond, this is something kind of outside of a normal experience for a human, and people have outside of normal experiences all the time. I'm not saying I'm special in that sense. It's just that this is something that's pretty wild and it feels pretty crazy. And, it's my way of experiencing some kind of outlier that is wild and not normal as a human. It's my way of doing it. And, I know what kind of normal kind of experience is, which I love, the so-called mundane and the monotonous and the repetitious and, the daily waking up. I mean, I love getting up. I love going to bed, and I do that every day. I love it. I do it twice a day. Wait a minute. Do I do it twice a day? I do one. I wake up and go to bed every day. Yeah, right. Okay, let me just get that straight. I was like, man, do I go to bed and then wake up and that's the next day? I guess it depends on which one you think about first. Oh God. I find this, Elsa is doing a puzzle right now, 1,500 piece jigsaw, and she loves it. She's almost done with it in like a week, I think. And, those kind of puzzles don't really do it for me, but these kind of puzzles I really love, like the puzzle of creating something, or, and I'm not saying that puzzling isn't that, but for me, sewing, running new trails, running trails, and discovering like connections in, words and theories and thoughts and ideas, and connecting all these things and putting them into ways that, kind of paint a picture and about how the world is so good, fascinating to me. I mean, we live in this world. It seems, for all intents and purposes, this is the one life, and we things that are rare, we cherish them. We cherish rarity, and the beautiful thing is that, it seems that we will only ever know this one life, and it was 1 in 400 trillion chance. And so it's like, how can we most appreciate and cherish this existence, this life, and for me, it seems so clear that living for the future, and more specifically living for the afterlife, which at the very least you could say 50-50 chance, and obviously it's not that, but you'll never know. So that is, you'll always die, and then you can always say that maybe it'll happen after you die, but you'll never know. So it's like, put all your appreciation and your cherished energy towards this life, and doing this jigsaw puzzle of pieces of reason and logic and reality and human experience, and putting all these things together in these variable ways, and that seem to be infinite in the reality that we live. The everyday reality, the ground that I'm walking on, the I that I am here standing and talking. It's like, I think, therefore I am, and I go on from there. Like, I think, therefore I am, and now what? And we've discovered so much from there. We've discovered so much from I think, therefore I am. We've discovered so much, and we've grown so much as, in population, and, what we know, what we don't know. The so funny thing about, like, knowing more makes you realize that you know less. Like, we know that to be true. And there's another reason that doesn't correspond to reality about the ultimate knowing of God, is that you're saying that that you have the keys to eternity, and you know the ultimate reality, the ultimate creator outside of this universe. And that's basically saying the more you know, the more that you know everything, because now you know everything. You know the ultimate of everything there is to know. And as humans, we know that the more we learn, the less we know. We basically realize the more we know that we can never know almost anything of everything. I've heard something like 1% of 1% of anything, right? And that seems to be corresponding with reality pretty strongly. There's too much, and we're too little. That's it, And I heard someone say the other day, to even have a feeling, to think that you could know the ultimate reality is really, in a way, doing a big disservice to yourself and ongoing. I think, like, for the future of humanity, it's probably a disservice. Like, the religious way, for the last 2,000 years has been fine, and it has a lot of utility and practicality into it. But we're hitting new ages, and with information we know and how we can communicate and how we can make decisions, we don't need to do that anymore. Back then, we didn't know what we know now. Now we know a lot more, and we can make decisions in different ways. We no longer need to be told, thou shalt not kill. We know not to kill, and we know why we choose not to kill. It has nothing to do with a God, and we don't need the God. We don't need to create the God to tell us that, but back then we did, it was like, this was a way to tell people about what is unknown. And now we know these unknowns. We know what it's like to not, to kill somebody. We know what it's like to live in society when people are being murdered. We know what it's like to steal from people and what consequences that have. And we know about these things. That's why we create rules and laws, and even we know about, it's like, if we steal from someone else, we know that how that feels when we have something stolen from us. So it makes sense not to go do it all the time. But in general, people also don't steal, because in general, it's just bad for people. It's just not a good thing for people to do in general, because it doesn't lead to good consequence, good outcomes. Look at that cute cat. What a pretty cat in the window. Wow. Anyway, I guess that's it. I should stop. I've gone very long, over 2 hours talking. So, I think I'm going to send this off to a couple of people and see what happens. I don't think really anything's going to happen, to be honest. But it was quite fun for me. What a thing to do, at the very least. All right. That's it. I'm going down the last hill to home, and I'm doing it backwards because it kind of stretches out my Achilles and things. All right. Ciao, ciao.